Section 11 of As a Matter of Course. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Cinda J. M. As a Matter of Course by Annie Payson Call. Illness. As far as we make circumstances guides and not limitations, they serve us. Otherwise, we serve them and suffer accordingly, just in proportion, too, to our allowing circumstances to be limits do we resist them. Such resistance is a nervous strain which disables us physically and, of course, puts us more in the clutches of what appears to be our misfortune. The moment we begin to regard every circumstance as an opportunity, the tables are turned on fate, and we have the upper hand of her. When we come to think of it, how much common sense there is in making the best of every opportunity, and what a lack of sense in chafing at that which we choose to call our limitations. The former way is sure to bring a good result of some sort, be it ever so small. The latter wears upon our nerves, blinds our mental vision, and certainly does not cultivate the spirit of freedom in us. How absurd it would seem if a wounded man were to expose his wound to unnecessary friction and then complain that it did not heal. Yet that is what many of us have done at one time or another when prevented by illness from carrying out our plans in life just as we had arranged. It matters not whether those plans were for ourselves or for others. Chafing and fretting at their interruption is just as absurd and quite as sure to delay our recovery. I know, with tears in our eyes, I ought not to complain, but it is so hard. To which common sense may truly answer, if it is hard, you want to get well, don't you? Then why do you not take every means to get well, instead of indulging first in the very process that will most tend to keep you ill? Besides this, there is a dogged resistance which remains silent, refuses to complain aloud, and yet holds a state of rigidity that is even worse than the external expression. There are many individual ways of resisting. Each of us knows his own, and knows, too, the futility of it. We do not need to multiply examples. The patients who resist recovery are quite as numerous as those who keep themselves ill by resisting illness. A person of this sort seems to be fascinated by his own body and its disorders. So far from resisting illness, he may be said to be indulging in it. He will talk about himself and his physical state for hours. He will locate each separate disease in a way to surprise the listener by his knowledge of his own anatomy. Not infrequently, he will preface a long account of himself by informing you that he has a hearty detestation of talking about himself and never could understand why people wanted to talk of their diseases. Then, in minute detail, he will reveal to you his brain impression of his own case and look for sympathetic response. These people might recover 100 times over, and they would never know it. So occupied are they in living their own idea of themselves and in resisting nature. When nature has knocked us down because of disobedience to her laws, we resist her if we attempt at once to rise or complain of the punishment. When the dear lady would hasten our recovery to the best of her ability, we resist her if we delay progress by dwelling on the punishment or chafing at its necessity. Nature always tends toward health. It is to prevent further ill health that she allows us to suffer for our disobedience to her laws. It is to lead us back to health that she is giving the best of her powers, having dealt the deserved punishment. The truest help we can give nature is not to think of our bodies, well or ill, more than is necessary for their best health. I knew a woman who was, to all appearances, remarkably well. In fact, her health was her profession. She was supposed to be a priestess of health. She talked about and dwelt upon the health of her body until one would have thought there was nothing in the world worth thinking of but a body. She displayed her fine points in the way of health and enjoyed being questioned with regard to them. This woman was taken ill. She exhibited the same interest, the same pleasure in talking over and dwelling upon her various forms of illness. In fact, more. She counted her diseases. I am not aware that she ever counted her strong points of health. This illustration is perhaps clear enough to give a new sense of the necessity for forgetting our bodies. When ill, use every necessary remedy. Do all that is best to bring renewed health. Having made sure you are doing all that you can, forget. Don't follow the process. When, as is often the case, pain or other suffering puts forgetting out of the question, use no unnecessary resistance, and forget as soon as the pain is past. Don't strengthen the impression by talking about it or telling it over to no purpose. Better forego a little sympathy and forget the pain sooner. It is with our nerves that we resist when nature has punished us. It is nervous strain that we put into a useless attention to and repetition of the details of our illness. Nature wants all this nerve force to get us well the faster. We can save it for her by not resisting and by a healthy forgetting. By taking an illness as comfortably as possible and turning our attention to something pleasant outside of ourselves, recovery is made more rapidly. Many illnesses are accompanied by more or less nervous strain, and its natural control will assist nature and enable medicines to work more quickly. The slowest process of recovery, and that which most needs the relief of a wholesome non-resistance, is when the illness is the result entirely of overworked nerves. Nature allows herself to be tried to the utmost before she permits nervous prostration. She insists upon being paid in full, principal and interest, before she heals such illness. So severe is she in this case that a patient may appear in every way physically well and strong weeks, nay months, before he really is so. It was the nerves that broke down last, and the nerves are the last to be restored. It is, however, wonderful to see how much more rapid and certain recovery is if the patient will only separate himself from his nervous system and refuse all useless strain. Here are some simple directions which may help nervous patients, if considered in regular order. They can hardly be read too often if the man or woman is in for a long siege, and if simply and steadily obeyed, they will shorten the siege by many days, nay, by many weeks or months in some cases. Remember that nature tends toward health. All you want is nourishment, fresh air, exercise, rest, and patience. All your worries and anxieties now are tired nerves. When a worry appears, drop it. If it appears again, drop it again, and so continue to drop it if it appears 50 or 100 times a day or more. If you feel like crying, cry, but know that it is the tired nerves that are crying, and don't wonder why you are so foolish. Don't feel ashamed of yourself. If you cannot sleep, don't care. Get all the rest you can without sleeping. That will bring sleep when it is ready to come, or you are ready to have it. Don't wonder whether you are going to sleep or not. Go to bed to rest, and let sleep come when it pleases. Think about everything in nature. Follow the growing of the trees and flowers. Remember all the beauties in nature you have ever seen. Say Mother Goose rhymes over and over, trying how many you can remember. Read bright stories for children and quiet novels, especially Jane Austen's. Sometimes it helps to work on arithmetic. Keep aloof from emotions. Think of other people. Never think of yourself. Bear in mind that nerves always get well in waves, and if you thought yourself so much better, almost well indeed, and then have a bad time of suffering, don't wonder why it is or what could have brought it on. Know that it is part of the recovery process. Take it as easy as you can and then ignore it. Don't try to do any number of things to get yourself well. Don't change doctors any number of times or take countless medicines. Every doctor knows he cannot hurry your recovery, whatever he may say, and you only retard it by being over anxious to get strong. Drop every bit of unnecessary muscular tension. When you walk, feel your feet heavy as if your shoes were full of lead, and think in your feet. Be as much like a child as possible. Play with children as one of them, and think with them when you can. As you begin to recover, find something every day to do for others. Best let it be in the way of housework or gardening or something to do with your hands. Take care of yourself every day as a matter of course, as you would dress or undress, and be sure that health is coming. Say over and over to yourself, nourishment, fresh air, exercise, rest, patience. When you are well and resume your former life, if old associations recall the unhappy nervous feelings, know that it is only the associations. Pay no attention to the suffering and work right on. Only be careful to take life very quietly until you are quite used to being well again. An illness that is merely nervous is an immense opportunity if one will only realize it as such. It not only makes one more genuinely appreciative of the best health and the way to keep it, it opens the sympathies and gives a feeling for one's fellow creatures which, having once found, we cannot prize too highly. It would seem hard to believe that all must suffer to find a delicate sympathy. It can hardly be so. To be always strong and at the same time full of warm sympathy is possible with more thought. When illness or adverse circumstances bring it, the gate has been opened for us. If illness is taken as an opportunity to better health, not to more illness, our mental attitude will put complaint out of the question, and as the practice spreads, it will as surely decrease the tendency to illness in others as it will shorten its duration in ourselves. End of section 11.